Hello, Internet and the world at large. It is I, Kareem Dunn, the Director of the Infrastructure Practice at Chestnut Hill Technologies. We are a global technology integration firm. We specialize in the data centers. From the on-prem, we specialize in AWS, Azure, GCP, public cloud in general, integration, migrations, you name it, we'll do it. We handle all manner of security, from tactical security to compliance and GRC, and all of the requisite components that your business might need to be functional and be in compliance and save yourself a lot of money. So check us out. We're chestnuthilltechnologies.com. I'll link to all of our socials and content below. Today, we are kicking off our podcast. This is our first inaugural podcast, and we are chatting. We're chatting today with Chris Scott, who is the CIO of Dental Care Alliance. He is also the former CIO over at Conviva Care Solutions, and he's also moving into a new CIO role, which is we're going to get into when the podcast starts and the conversation starts. He's going to flesh that out a little more. Our podcast is centered around technology and the interesting people that make technology work. We talk to CIOs, we talk to engineers, contractors, and focus and highlight the human side of the technology sphere. So without further ado, we're going to get into our conversation with Chris Scott. And enjoy, guys. Take two. Chris Scott.
Yes.
Of the CHT podcast.
The inaugural one, right?
The inaugural one. You are the first, sir. You are a pioneer and a trailblazer in so many respects.
Yeah, I love being number one, so that's good.
I like that. Let's go ahead and run with. I've known Chris for 3, maybe 4 years now. I've worked with Chris at the Conviva/FCCI organization, and when he came on board, he inherited a infrastructure that had some problems, let's be honest, and he chose to assess what we have on the ground and make the right tactical decisions to bring that whole entire enterprise to, in my opinion, a very robust organization from a technology perspective. So I can't thank him enough for having the vision to say, you know what, there's some changes that need to be made here. Let's make them instead of let's see how this goes. Which is an approach I've seen not pan out the way a lot of people expect. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Scott to give his intro and get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Chris Scott. So I'm going to be a 3-time CIO here soon. I'm taking another role in another company in Miami. But like Kareem said, have worked with Chestnut Hills since, gosh, I guess 2019, I guess, was when I first got introduced to Jack and the whole team. And in fact, one of the things that was very interesting about that part is that all of the tower leads at that point for that had done the disintegration from the Humana environment were all Chestnut Hills leaders. And so, you, Kareem, and we had, I think, 4 or 5 others that were all the leads for those particular areas. And so that went very well. A little bit about my background is, I think I said this before, my first job in IT was in 1990. So, I have benefited from, growing up in an age where I've got to see a little bit of everything. I remember even some of the first jobs that I had were, running, COBOL reports on a mainframe to, get coordinates for construction projects and stuff like that. And then, that of course quickly moved to client server, and then of course with the boom of the internet, and then now mobile apps and AI and all these different types of technology. So I feel like I was born into IT at the right time and have seen a lot of really cool stuff over the last 30 plus years. And I've taken really all of the roles that I've had, whether it's sysadmin or infrastructure admin or desktop admin, any of those things, and rolled that into every leadership role that I've ever had. And I feel like I have a nice round base of technologies, not only from a management perspective, but certainly from a hands-on standpoint at some point in my career, which I think is very important, because a lot of folks that I talk to today, they read a lot about the technologies, they haven't really touched the technologies, and until you can actually do that, then sometimes you don't have the full scope. So again, think I'm I think I'm well suited for the CIO role, and of course also really in tune with the IT security landscape as well, and finishing up my Ph.D. At the end of July in cybersecurity.
Yeah, Dr. Scott. Let's start working on getting used to saying Dr. Scott.
That's right.
So it sounds like you've been in the game for a while. What still keeps you excited about technology as a career path and as a passion?
Yeah, so I think early in my career, it was more about the technologies and how much more you could do with the technology. So, I remember thinking it was really awesome back in the day to put in, 5 gig hard drives and servers, and that was all you would ever need, right? And so the excitement back then was, wow, now there's a 10 gig, or there's a 20 gig, or there's a terabyte, or there's a whatever. So that was the fun then. I think the fun now has changed to, especially the last, decade or so of my career, has been, how does technology help the business? And, when you think about working faster, working smarter, making the most of your resources, all of those types of things. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is all dependent upon how well you use technology. And so for me, that's the mindset that I go into any new role with is, how can we change this organization to work more effectively with better technology, and or how can we make it more safe, so that we are not a target. And so I think over time, certainly my thoughts about technology have changed, more from hands-on in the past, and then going to much more about how to help the business here in the last 10 years.
That is the approach that you should have at that level. I mean, I am tactical, but the more conversations I have with you and folks like yourself, you start understanding that once you take your head up just right above the weeds, you start seeing a whole different ballgame. And
yes,
that's one of the, if I get nothing out of doing this, it's just hearing that perspective. So a question for you then, and my mind works in 8 different ways. So what is a typical day for Chris Scott, the CIO, look like?
Yeah, so in any CIO role, I think it's really a couple of different things. One, it's kind of having your finger on the pulse of the organization from an IT perspective. So, are we missing anything from a pure IT operations perspective? We're talking about help desk tickets and the network, and how are things running and all that stuff, and of course making sure, in that same vein, how are the people doing? I think it's first of all, how are we doing as an IT organization, and then how are we doing from a people perspective? And what I'm always big on, have always been big on, is being the guy with the open door policy and the guy that walks around and see how people are doing. And it's never just about the job, it's more about the person, because people have very complicated lives. You never know what's going on with them personally that could be affecting what they're doing on the job. And so for me, it's just understanding how the organization is running, and is there anything I can do to help it?
Yeah, that is real ear nuggets right there. That's a gem. Most people come to work and they bring with them all the things that they were dealing with, and they have to stop and leave that at the door and now do the job. Being in tune, that's a good one.
Yeah, end of the day, I mean, all we have is people, right? So you have to treat everybody with respect in the way that you want to be treated. So that's how I approach every organization.
All right. I think we can end the interview.
Exactly.
So with what we spoke about from the last time we had this conversation, I know you inherited an infrastructure that you saw some deficiencies in, and you wanted to tackle that. So I just wanted to get your view on how Chestnut Hill helped you accomplish your original vision, and then take that to the stratosphere of it, the new and some of the other projects that you had teed up before you decided to pursue bigger and better things.
Sure, sure, absolutely. So yeah, back in the Conviva days, as you recall, we inherited a technology and an environment and a data center and all these things that weren't optimal. And so, what I did really is to kind of prioritize based on what I know about IT. So for example, almost every day we would come in, there would be some kind of network issue, right? A network outage here or there. There would be a router or a wireless access point or whatever. Everything was old, right? And so for me, it was like, okay, well, you can't do anything unless your base is fixed. And so, what does a network mean? Well, that's not only the circuits to the offices, it's, the hardware at the offices, it's the data center, it's all those things that make up the network. And then, you come up a layer from that, and it's all about, what are the other applications that run on that network that you need to make sure are running efficiently. And then on top of that, and kind of encapsulating all of that together is the security, as we are connecting into the network or into internet resources or whatever, we have to do so in a very secure way. And so that kind of drove, or that does drive my thinking about prioritization is, what are the things that we absolutely have to do right first, and then build on those things.
Absolutely. So how do we come in from a resources perspective to kind of drive that point home for you?
Absolutely. So from the Chestnut Hill standpoint, like I said, I was lucky enough to have several folks as tower leads, and we we're very communicative there. We all kind of worked together on what we think the plan was going to be, and in essence, it was more like this is like a rip and replace kind of scenario. I mean, we didn't have a lot of things that we could salvage out of that, and so although it was going to be costly, we knew that for the business to run like a $2 billion business, which it was, is that you had to do these things. And so, between you and, Ismail and other people that we had there, we were able to put together the plan, especially the deployment, of the Meraki SD-WAN, network and solution, which made everything much more flexible and robust. And then also getting everything together and teed up to do the data center migration, which is always an interesting thing to do. But I think if it wasn't for the expertise that, of course, we had in Chestnut Hills, that wouldn't have been possible.
Always a fun time to migrate to data center, especially the time frames that we had to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are good stories that I tell to this day about how we did all that stuff. So
during COVID, that was a good time.
Oh yeah.
The question I still have, I mean, you've seen a lot, you've been to a lot of places. Is there anything that you're particularly worried about now that you kind of pivoted over into the security space full time, that would give you a CISO sized ulcer?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think there's a fallacy out there about folks that I think about us in our daily lives. Everybody uses social media. They have their own devices to get to different network applications, whether it's in the internet or somewhere else that they use on a daily basis. And I always think the device that you're using to get there, I always worry about the security of whatever that device is. I also think sometimes we're kind of lulled to sleep, by thinking that everything is safe. And so when we go into work, sometimes we practice the same haphazard skills that we have in our personal lives. And, that's how companies get compromised. And that's how we get ransomed or phished or whatever. And so, for me, it's multiple layers of security that you need. Some companies don't have like a corporate network, like a formal corporate network. But to me, that's like the first line of defense, because without authenticating to that network first and then authenticating to another network resource or internet resource, that's a double authentication. And so now we're getting more into this zero trust concept where you always have to authenticate to the resource that you're using. And so I just think we all have to get used to that and not think that it's a set it and forget it or one-time password kind of thing. And unless you're, lucky enough to have an all-inclusive SSO strategy, but not too many people have that.
Yeah. So I think I'm hearing where the new organization is going to benefit from a very robust zero trust.
Yeah. That's right. That's
implementation.
right. It's going to be very secure.
I love it. Ironically or coincidentally, I'm not sure how to term it. Since we spoke, did see the commercials popping up on screen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
See,
like
there you go. Somebody was listening.
yeah.
My wife says that all the time. We were just talking about this, and now on Facebook, it's telling me,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
windows and doors or whatever we were talking about,
On the
So,
sidewall of your inbox, suddenly
yep,
everything that you were
that's
talking about is right there at your fingertips. It's
that's
crazy.
right. It's amazing. Amazing. Great marketing.
Or snooping. Let's pick a word
Yeah,
that we can run with.
either way. That's right.
So I think I don't want to, like I said, take up too much of your time. You're kind enough to do this twice. So, it's Wednesday. I know it's 3:00. What do you got planned for the rest of the day in terms of fun and good stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting at the current job, we have a daily meeting with all the management team at 5 o'clock to go through numbers and how we did for the day and how we did yesterday and how we're doing for the week and the month and the quarter. And, so I think that's, I think that's a best practice, when you think about, getting everyone together from every part of the organization, because then you really understand where you're at. There are no surprises, I recall back in the day, I think these days IT and IT departments are much more respected than they used to be. But back in the day, everything was a surprise to IT because we weren't involved, with business discussions. And so when you fast forward to where we are today, we're such an integral part. We get a seat at the table, sometimes a seat at the board table, which is great. And so to hear how the business is doing, and then also to take that information and say, how can I help from an IT perspective? That's really the value of bringing your IT guy to the business table. But that's probably what I'll do the rest of the day is we have that, and then a few other one-on-ones later tonight, and then I'll be done for the day.
Yeah. Well, I hope you can get through that. Kind of makes me wonder when you stop working. Jeez, where's that work-life balance come in?
Yeah, that's right. And the good thing is at least I have some things that are winding down, soon. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the new role. I think I mentioned to you we bought a new house. Looking forward to redoing a new house. Looking forward to the end of the Ph.D. and several other things. So have a lot going on, but a lot of really good things personally, which is great.
That I am so happy for you. I said it last time, but it's nice to see everything happening to good people, like good things happen to good people.
Thank you.
Enjoy that. So June is going to be a big month for you. Everything should be, something should be winding down and wrapping up and starting up. So
that's right. Exactly.
here's June.
Yeah, maybe I can take a summer break at some point, right? So,
you just got a house. You're gonna be you're gonna be. Oh, let's change this and change that.
Yeah.
You know what? We should change all of this.
Yeah, that's right.
This is perfectly working door. Let's change it.
I meant to remind you the last question of the last time we talked. You mentioned, was there any advice I would give to people about how to, get to the next level or get to another job or whatever? And
that was coming. You preempted me.
And I think the one thing that I told you, which is absolutely true, is, take the hard jobs. Take the jobs that nobody wants or people in the past have not been successful in, because that's just going to make you a better leader, a better technologist, a better whatever, so always take the hard jobs. And the other thing that I didn't mention last time is that, careers are not always in one direction, so I've seen people go from, managers and directors back to individual contributors, back to, other things, even go into the business side of things, and then coming back to IT. So everybody's path is different. And I think that, if you talk to people who have been in IT for a while, or even have been in IT in a large company, a lot of times you'll see this kind of up and down and back and forth. And And that's actually good because you're learning about the business, then you're learning about IT, and then you can go back and you can focus more on a specific area of the business you might be interested in, and then back to IT. But that always makes you more valuable. And so I think those are the two things that I would say is, careers aren't one direction straight to the top, because that almost never happens. And then two, take the hard jobs or the jobs nobody wants.
So let me ask you this: when you started off, I mean, I know nobody starts off life knowing exactly what they want to do. When you started off my journey in technology, did you see it any different? Or you saw something completely different?
Yeah.
You wanted to just be the guy that plays with tech all the time.
Yeah, that's right. No, and that's actually what I thought. I actually thought I would be kind of this contract guy forever, because that's what I did early in my career was, I did a year contract here and 6 months there and 2 years there. And I always thought that I would just grow, personally in breadth, but I would still be an individual contributor and a contractor. And it wasn't until GE hired me in 1999, and it was actually as the LAN team leader, which was the first team leader job that I had. But then they saw in me something that I didn't see in me, which is this guy has the ability to influence a group of people, and so we're going to put him into the management program and grow his career. And so after that, it was GE building me from the inside out and making me into a better leader with all of the trainings and experiences that I had there. And so, I think it wasn't until I got, into GE in the last 2 or 3 years of GE that I think, I could probably be a CIO, because I know enough now, and, I think I've been and seen a lot of different things, so I would bring a lot to the table. And it wasn't until GE hired me in 1999, and it was actually as the LAN team leader, which was the first team leader job that I had. But then they saw in me something that I didn't see in me, which is this guy has the ability to influence a group of people, and so we're going to put him into the management program and grow his career. And so after that, it was GE building me from the inside out and making me into a better leader with all of the trainings and experiences that I had there. And so I think it wasn't until I got, into GE in the last 2 or 3 years of GE that I think, I could probably be a CIO, because I know enough now, and, I think I've been and seen a lot of different things, so I would bring a lot to the table.
So is it the confidence that arose from you seeing so many different aspects of the business that led you here? And do you think you would have been able to say, I can do this, without having seen that?
I think it would have been difficult because, and of course, when you look at my career path, it was, the first 9 years or so was just, whoever would take me for a contract. And then in the middle, it was these huge companies. GE at the time was a $180 billion company with 400,000 employees or something like that in its totality. And then Humana was also a massive company. And the last 4 or 5 years have been slowly smaller and smaller. But I think you can learn as much, if not more, in a smaller company than a larger company. But where I think I got my confidence from, or gained my confidence, was in GE, going from job to job to job, even though I wouldn't have experience in sometimes. I went to an app development job as a manager one time, and I had never been an app development person at all. I mean, I knew a little bit about coding and I could run reports, but I didn't know, coding down to a science, right? And they threw me into a manager job. And of course, that really tests your mettle, right? And makes you either sink or swim, right? And so the good thing is I was able to swim and was that much better for it.
Yeah. So, biggest takeaway, or my biggest takeaway, people skills are the most important.
Yes.
When it comes to this technology that you're in.
Yes,
oh,
absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think it is because and somebody else said this, and it's 80% of any job is, working with people. And it's, whether you're working with someone in a team, or you're leading a team, or you're a part of a team. You just want to be a good team player, no matter which role you're in. And, in the past, I used to see, CIOs and CEOs and all that are these big untouchable people and these roles that, weren't attainable or anything like that. And, now that I've been a CIO, going on three times, it's like, I feel like it's my responsibility to, tell everybody else that this is not like an untouchable job or, like a place where you can't make it, right? Because if I made it, I think other people can make it. And I'm always here to, talk to people or mentor people or just chit chat. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, again, it's all about people and the teams that you have around you. And, I think some people will automatically do the right things, and some people have to be coached along. But at the end of the day, again, it's all about people and how you treat people and how they treat you.
No argument here.
The other thing that I do, and I've tried to do this the last 3 jobs that I've had, and it's really picking somebody within the organization that you feel a certain sense of likeness with, or someone that has had a similar background as you, or maybe you relate to on some level, and try to make their lives better, their job better, their personal life better, whatever you can do. So you find 2 or 3 people at each job and say, I want to invest my time in bringing him along or her along, and so that they can maybe get the next level job or the next level pay increase, or do something for them or their life, that's going to make a difference. And so, so I've tried to do that the last few jobs, and try to get people into roles I think they could really excel in and do well in. And so far it's been a success, and I hope to keep doing that.
More rewarding than the job itself, or just that?
Yeah, no, I think it is, because when you think about, all of us, people have invested in us, in different ways, some, in better ways than others. But when you think about the big, your first big break, or your first big management job, or your first CIO job, somebody thought enough of you to give you that opportunity, right? And so for me, it's like, how do you give that back in some ways? Even if it's someone who's an individual contributor that you think would be a great manager, well, give them a manager job and give them some more money. Let them see if they can do that. And then the same thing goes if they're a director and you think they could be, a CTO or whatever. Give them the opportunity to take that leap and see what happens, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to see that you're behind them and that you support them, and then they're going to do well in that role. And so that's going to be not only great for their pocketbook, but great for their career.
I think it's the prevailing culture now. You're hitting on it perfectly, that most people want to have a manager, not necessarily a job, but a manager that they not just respect, but want to work on.
Sure.
And if they can get that, the rest of the job they'll figure out. What can I work with this person is the only deciding factor. And
that's right.
And just hearing somebody say that from your position is comforting. It's actually giving some hope to the future of work in general, because people need it. They need to hear that. It's not just you're not just a checkbox or a resource or a person with a value.
That's right. Exactly. And if you don't have the overhead of having, an uncontrolled boss, or someone that, you always have to manage up to constantly, then, you're taking all of that energy and you're putting it to something that you really shouldn't have to. You should be in lockstep with your leader. You guys should know what each other is doing. You shouldn't have to, give them a 10-page report every day on all the things that you've done, because that's just wasted energy, right? So if you guys have a rapport and like if I come in and I know that Kareem's getting all these things done, then the only thing I want to know from Kareem is how you feel, how's your family, you're doing okay, and then have a great day, and that's really all it's about. So I totally get.
I can understand. That is no, it's not. I've worked with micromanagers before, and I've worked with folks like yourself who only real barometer of time well spent are the results. So if the discussion was had 3 weeks ago that we need to get XYZ done, and XYZ gets done, that's the only thing that Chris really cares about. Like,
that's right.
We need a data center. All right.
There you go. That works.
And I kid you not, those were the conversations. Hey, we need a disaster recovery solution. Okay.
Yep.
When can I have that? Let me look at it. I'll let you know. And that a lot of what we got done, or what was accomplished while we were working together, were those emails, were those conversations in passing. And it wasn't outside of the realm of possibility for you to come to me and say, we need a data center. That was the beginning and ending of that initial conversation. And I'm like, a little more detail would have been cool, but here's what we have so far.
That's right. Set big goals, right? Big goals, and then and then monitor it, and think good things will happen usually. And of course, I think you need to know enough about some of the technologies, right? But at the end of the day, you got great people like yourself that can really take the load of a big project like that on and make it successful. So.
All right, so I know we are right at time, and you have another 5 o'clock coming up. So I want to thank you again so much for indulging me and coming back on and telling your story again. Conversation has always been sparkling. I learn something every time I talk to you. I genuinely appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you got it, man. Anytime I can be of any assistance, and look forward to working with you guys some more at the new job.
Yep. Ready when you are.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
We will. I'll chat with you after this. I'll tell you we need to take 3.